Is there a restaurant near here?
Yes, there is.
Thanks. And are there any bungalows nearby?
Yes, there are.
Is there a restaurant near here?
Yes, there is.
Thanks. And are there any bungalows nearby?
Yes, there are.
Great. Oh.
Is there a restaurant near here?
Yes, there is.
Is there a restaurant near here?
Yes, there is.
Is there a restaurant near here?
Yes, there is.
Is there a restaurant near here?
Well, yes, there is.
Is there a restaurant near here?
Yes, there is. Where does it go from there?
Excuse me.
Okay. Do you notice how far back up I went with the language? I'm backing way, way, way back, aren't I? Now we're getting into production. This is core dialogue. Okay? And basically I have tape to teacher. My tape's not working very well, or that tape recorder's not working very well. In teaching practice, you might want to try these one-sided tapes. They're kind of fun. They get student interest. And if you can get used to talking to a tape recorder, it's actually a pretty good way to model. However, I do find that time constraints being what they are, teacher to teacher is fine. Okay, so I could have gone, is there a restaurant near here? Yes, there is. Okay, now notice that in this case I have two cards. Okay, now I've got a choice here, don't I? Shall I model 4 lines of dialogue or only 2? Okay? Are you with me here? If I only do 2 lines of dialogue, who are my students? As opposed to using 4.
I'm not sure I understand, but I think one picture would be used for beginners.
Yes.
Adding more and more.
Okay, again, beginners is a very large category of people. Okay, so let's say anybody who I thought might have trouble. I'm going to go 2 lines at a time. If I were teaching M1s, these are the 12-year-olds that you're going to run up against in the high school, I think I might just go 2 lines at a time. Okay, so I would go teacher, 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 student, student, teacher, student, student with just 1 card. Then I'd bring in the other one. Now, please keep in mind that you've got another choice here. Will I go 2 plus 2 or will I go 2 to 4? Are you with me? Okay, now in this case, because of this lesson, I think I would choose to go 2 to 4. So then I would go, I'm back again here. Kelly, is there a restaurant in the neighborhood?
Yes, there is.
Are there any bungalows nearby?
Yes, there are.
Okay, I'm gonna add that one in because I do believe that most even 12-year-olds can do this. Okay. Teacher, 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 student, student, teacher, student, student. How many times? Teacher, teacher. 3 or 4, at least. Okay, they need to hear you do it. Okay, whole thing. Okay, is there a restaurant near here? Yes, there is. And are there any bungalows nearby? Yes, there are. Again, notice the dance step. You got to show the card to the students, but don't turn to the students. It's very unnatural to do that. This is a minor point, but again, in observing people do this, the students pay more attention if they're not being watched. You're putting on a little act for them up here and try to make it a little charade, you know? Is there a restaurant near here? Yes, there is. Are there any bungalows nearby? Yes, there are. Teacher, 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 student, student, teacher, student, student, and then what comes next? Huh? Elicited to the board. Okay? Okay? Now, we didn't do this in our peer teach, so you're pardoned for, we skipped it there because what were we dealing with? We're dealing with a warmer. A warmer, it is not necessary to elicit the warmer to the board because it's known language. Now we're dealing with language that's not so well known. Okay? So how do we do this?
Is there a restaurant?
Is there huh? No. Thank you. We don't say a. Anybody here say a? Is there a restaurant near here? You do? Well, you're distinct at best. Okay. Is there a restaurant? Near here. Okay? This is the time when you slow it down. It's an appropriate place to slow down and put it on the board, one word at a time. If they miss a word, leave it blank and go back. Do not ask them to repeat or quarrel from the board, please. You go, is there a restaurant near here? But please don't ask them to quarrel from the board. That's rote learning, and we don't do that.
Yes.
Yes?
There is.
There is. Now the point is here, guys, some of your students will get this very quickly. In any given class of 30 students, 35 students, do you think the level is all the same? Of course not. You could have a kid in there who just spent the last 2 semesters in Omaha. I'm serious. You know? And you could have a kid in there that is clueless. Okay? So even if some of the students start reading out the whole thing to you, don't work off your fastest students. Slow down for the guys who are thankful when you got to Kitsuhili Sintle Kap Ra. Sorry, I just screwed it up. Kap, that's good. Okay? That you slowed it down and did it word by word. Because they're still trying to figure out what one of the words is. Okay? Are
There.
you can help them, you know. You can point to this and say, comes down here, are there any? Okay, now there's a word that you can predict. Maybe they might miss. Okay? Any? Are there any?
Bungalows. Also.
Nearby. Now notice that it changes. The deviancy gene. Human beings by nature are ornery. We have to change things. We can't keep saying near here. Huh?
That was a question.
Yes, sorry. Okay. And then it goes.
Yes.
Okay. And what happens now?
Teacher student.
Count them off. Double lines. Or it could be a horseshoe. Let's see how pink shows up back there. Okay, so what's our first step here? We've done our warmer. We're past our warmer, okay? Warmer's done. Hi, my name's Dave. Now we're starting into the core dialogue. What's the first thing you do?
Modeling.
What?
Context.
Thank you. Good. We'll get there. What's the next thing you do?
The dialogue.
Yeah? Well, what are you going to do? Exactly.
Reinforce context.
Hmm?
Dialogue.
No. What do you do? What's your next dance step?
We all came up with the border.
Okay, that's all part of this. Okay, that was all part of this. Okay, so I'm abbreviating it a little bit. Okay, so what's the next thing you do? Teacher, teacher. Teacher, teacher. And what do you have in your hand? Cards. Okay. Step number 3. Try to make this easy, step by step. What goes next? Model context. Teacher, teacher with a card. Then what do you do? No.
No, teacher, student.
Teacher, student. To. Student, teacher. To. Student, student. Are we doing so far here? What happens next? Huh? Elicit to the board. If you had done this 2 lines at a time, chunked out this piece and chunked out this piece, it means that you would do this whole thing 2 times, not once, 2 times. Are you with me? You will do this every time you chunk out 2 lines or 4 lines. I don't believe with most beginners or even false beginners that you want to do more than 4 lines at a time.
But the practice that we did earlier, you go through all of that first, and then you write
Yes.
the
Right.
sentences on the board.
Right.
Okay, which is the thing we did not do.
We did not do with a warmer because a warmer is known language. This is not known language. Now we're in our lesson. We're using a core dialogue, core material here, and core material is a little bit beyond their immediate production ability. Just a little bit beyond. L+1.
So do you then go back and do?
No, you do exactly. Paul, look at the board. You do exactly what it says there.
In other words, and that's the end of it?
No, no, we're not done. You're just at that point.
I have a question. If you're going to split it up into 2 parts, do you demonstrate the entire dialogue first? Like,
Yes, to put it into context.
okay.
Because one of the things they need to notice is the difference between is and are, isn't it? We're not going to talk about plural forms of be here. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to explain it. But I want them to clearly see the difference between is there a restaurant near here? Are there any bungalows nearby? And they can't see that if I don't model the whole dialogue. You get my point? Okay? So you start off by modeling the whole dialogue. Now normally you guys are going to have 6-liners. Not because 6 is a magic number, because that's about all you can teach in 50 minutes. Okay? Also, I don't think that long dialogues should be taught like this or at this level. Long dialogues are taught as listenings and they're taught at intermediate and above lesson. They're not taught as conversation practice. This is for low intermediate down to beginner levels where you're actually teaching dialogues for conversation practice.